So what we're going to talk about today are 6 problems, 6 traps that I've seen that are keeping us from realizing the full benefits of Agile, that we see over and over again, the patterns that have emerged that would allow you to deliver double the value in half the time. Because that's kind of the promise of Agile. It's like we're going to get more done, we're going to get shorter cycle times, but many of you have probably implemented some Agile things, or Wagile, or Scrummerfall, or Scrum But, right? We do Scrum, but we don't do retrospectives anymore. We didn't find any value, right? So you might be doing those things because you're going through the motions. We call it in the Agile space, we call it doing Agile versus being Agile. Right? A lot of you might be doing Scrum. You have a daily stand-up, you have a sprint planning, you have a retro, we're doing Scrum, check, check, check. We have somebody we call ScrumMaster. We still can't find our product owner. But you're not necessarily being Agile. You don't have the short feedback loops. You're not getting the customer engaged. Right? We still have those kind of challenges. So we're going to talk about six of these problems that we see. So the first problem is that we have this challenge where we're making too many decisions up front, early in the process. And excuse me, allergies in Austin are bringing me down. We have these decisions we make early, and we lock them in. Right? We resist change. And so let me walk you through a scenario. If we're going to create a plan, traditionally, what I would have done is said, all right, what's our target? What are our requirements? What's the scope? How much time do we have? How many resources do I have? Right? And then my job, pre-Agile, would have been to solve the puzzle of how do I create the critical path optimized plan, Microsoft project server, figure out how do I load balance all of my resources, right? Figure that out, like, all right, I need 2.2 days of you and then 3.8 days of you. Meanwhile, you're going to be working on this for a week, and I know exactly what Casey's going to be doing the day after Memorial Day because I got the plan figured out, and I have this eureka moment. Like, I solved it. I got the plan. I figured it out. I load balanced everybody. Except for Casey, you're going to have to work overtime week 3, but everybody else, I got it all figured out. Right now, do you think I was open to change once that plan started? No, right? Like I'm resisting any change. No. But I'm going to make sure this plan delivers on time, within budget. And I was meeting with a client this week, and there was a guy that said, hey, you know what? I deliver all my projects on time and within scope. And they're 2-year projects, and they're massive, and I am the controller, and I make sure they all happen over 2 years. And I said, so what happens when the business has something new that comes up, a month or 2 into that plan? I say, well, I don't have enough resources. So I tell them we can't get to it unless we got more resources. So, all right, is that the best thing for the business, is for you to make that plan that may not be that valuable? At the beginning of this, at this point of X, is this our smartest point in this project? Are we, that's our dumbest point, right? But we tend to make the hardest decisions and lock them in. So what do we do in Agile? We still need a plan. We can't just say, there's some Agile people out there that are like, well, we're Agile. You'll get it when you get it. Right? We'll see it when we see it. Or they're the Kanban guys. It's continuous flow, man. Like stuff comes in and then stuff comes out the other end. We'll get stuff done. Don't worry. Right? So in Agile, what we say is we need to head out in that direction, towards that target. But then what we're going to do is apply our empirical process control, which all Agile frameworks are based on, and we're going to constantly inspect and adapt. So we're going to get there, and we're going to get smarter, and we're going to decide, should we stay along the white line, or should we deviate from the white line? And if we're working, or we're doing potentially shippable product increments, we're breaking work down, we're getting things to done, and I mean done, right? Then we have the chance to pivot. Principle number 7 in the Agile Manifesto says working software is our primary measure of progress, and if we really are embracing that, at this point we have a chance to deviate from the line, and we might decide, you know what, we can. And we'll partner with the business and figure that out. Is that the best decision for the business? And we're going to continue to pivot. This is really fun watching it from the back. It's like a new challenge as a presenter. And then we're trying to get to where we're maximizing the most amount of value that we can deliver given our constraints of time and the number of people that we have. We know we have those constraints, and typically we are trying to deliver on time. Sometimes we have fixed scope, but most of the time it's fixed date. We're trying to maximize as much value. If you haven't seen the video Product Owner in a Nutshell by Henrik Nieberg, who's doing a lot of work with Spotify, he says in there, one of my favorite lines is, our job is to maximize outcome with the least amount of output. But most of the time, our management is trying to maximize output. You're developers, you need your hands on the keyboard, you need to write as many lines of code. But if we're building 64% of the features are rarely or never used, is the goal for them just to write more code and write more of the wrong features? Or do we need to figure out and inspect and adapt and make sure we're building the right product, the best outcome that we can, given that time? Nothing's smart. All right. Our job here is to accelerate learning. We're trying to get smarter because we are at our dumbest point at the beginning. We're trying to figure out, how do we get smarter? How do we learn? How do we figure out what is the right stuff to build? How do we keep pivoting on that? How do we learn? How do we get our customers engaged? How do we get that feedback? That's the first thing that we're trying to do. That's the first problem we're trying to tackle. Okay. What I want you to do is close your eyes. Trust. All right. Now, tear off the bottom left corner of your sheet of paper. Okay, now fold the paper in half again. Yes. Tear off the bottom right corner of your sheet of paper. Fold the paper in half one more time. Tear off the top right corner. Now, open your sheet of paper and open your eyes, and I'm sure everybody at your table has the same, hold up your sheet. I'm sure you all have the same thing. What happened? I thought I gave you clear requirements. Raise your hand if you have had perfect requirements on a project. Liar. You wrote them, so they must be true. I'm brilliant. Yeah, right. I have this theory that the more that we write down, the more we convince ourselves we're right. Right? And then the more defensive. Any product owners or BAs in the room? Right? So the more you write your requirements, think about when you step into the room to review them with the team, if they challenge those requirements, you get defensive, don't you? Like, it's natural, it's human nature that, like, no, I did all this, I spent a month on these, they must be right. But the reality is we don't know if they're right until we start testing them in the market. Not testing them in QA, but like testing them with customer feedback. So, problem number 2. Do we all understand when somebody says, I need you to build a shape, everybody says, yeah, I know what a shape is. Are we effectively communicating what it is that we're trying to build? And most importantly, are we effectively iterating to validate all the assumptions that we have going into it? Right? So we don't have a shared understanding. Our team doesn't have a shared understanding. A lot of times we say, well, what are our developers paid to do? Write code. So we can't have them in a meeting to talk to the product owner or stakeholders or customers to actually understand what it is they're building. We're just going to have somebody, we'll call them a BA, that'll figure it all out. And then we'll just feed these requirements under the door with a pizza. And we'll just expect them to just build what was written down. Right? How's that working out for you? 64%, rarely or never used. So a technique, who attended the story mapping session the last hour? Right? So story mapping, if you didn't, go buy the book by Jeff Patton, Use Your Story Mapping. And story mapping is this great technique that you want to get your team and your stakeholders as much as you can in a room. And we want to switch from what I would call a requirements delivery process to a requirements discovery process. Requirements delivery, I write a big document, I feed it under the door, I deliver requirements, I expect them to read it, I expect them to understand all the stuff that I did the analysis for the last X weeks, months, and I expect them to understand it because I'm communicating it through the document. But there's no such thing as a perfect requirement. So getting them involved in the discovery process, doing something where we are interviewing and walking through scenarios of what the customer is going to do, like user story mapping, is a great way for the teams to figure out, okay, are we building a triangle, are we building a square, are we building a circle? And that is really important time spent. I heard of a team the other day that took a half a day, they were a consumer-based product, the team went to the mall and interviewed people that were customers. Do you think they built better software over the next 3 months? Because they actually talked to a real customer? Yeah, you betcha. Right? But if they just sat in a room and had no understanding of who their customer was, they're making decisions every day about how the software is going to work. And if you don't give the developers clarity, developers can get really creative. Right? You know what, I can imagine that maybe, the guys that would need like a red dragon to do this, and whatever, right? They'll start thinking of all sorts of things. Wouldn't it be cool if? No, it wouldn't. Because, you know what? We're not going to get our product shipped. I got all these other features down here I need you to build, and they're not that cool, but the customers want them. They don't need a laser-guided whatever. Right? So we're trying to get them to focus on the minimal thing. Let's get it out. Let's learn. Let's accelerate learning. Let's make sure we understand the problem we're trying to solve, not just give them solutions to go build. The third problem, I think you mentioned it back there, right? Long feedback loops. Some of us have long feedback loops. Some of us have no feedback loop. Right? And therefore, we're not learning. We're not getting new information. And so what we want to do is, some of you have read by now Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup, which challenges the way that we think about product. Think about two loops that are happening. Most of the time we focused on what I would call the execution loop. Most of our Agile adoptions, everything, we've been focused on how do we execute, how do we get delivered software faster, how do we do it with higher quality? How do we shorten cycle times? How do we increase productivity? But there's another loop that we're missing, that we haven't been talking about enough, which is the product discovery loop. Are we building the right product? What product should we be building? What features should we be building? And both of those are happening at the same time, but a lot of times it's like the product owner is off on this island and supposed to just guess, and then we iterate over here. And so what Eric Ries is saying, we should think about everything we build like a science experiment. It's not a requirement. We hear the word requirement, we think fixed factual thing. Right? It's a requirement. That's a requirement. But really, a requirement is nothing more than a hypothesis. If we build this, we expect this outcome. And so he challenged, we got really good about Coming up with an idea, building it, delivering product, go to the next idea. That was our loop. What he's saying is, we need to build it, but measure, and then learn from it. And I like to think about it backwards. What do we need to learn? How are we going to measure that we're learning? What's the thing that we're trying? What needle are we trying to move? And then what's the smallest thing we can build or sometimes test? There's a story about a debate within Amazon. Oh, this would be great. This is going to make us millions. They're fighting. Who's all been in a portfolio planning meeting where we're all debating about which feature we should build, which initiatives we should do. This one's going to make us more money. This one's going to make us more money. And in that session, somebody said, let's just put a link on the website, on the homepage. Like, well, we haven't built it yet. I don't care. Well, what's it going to do? Go to a 404 error. And they did it. And nobody clicked it. Do they need to build that feature? No. If people started clicking it, okay, take it down and let's go build it. Right? Indeed, there's a lot of stories. Indeed has a blog, Indeed Eng. And last year, I think it was, they recorded a bunch of videos around how they're doing this experiment-driven development, data-driven development, I think they're calling it. They're running like over 100 experiments at any given time. And things are always changing. They're always tweaking things. You've heard of A/B testing. Right? But what's the smallest thing we can do to experiment and learn and validate or invalidate our hypothesis? Eric Huddleston runs TrendKite here, smart dude. He said that our job is to figure out how dumb we are as fast as possible. Because everything we've convinced ourselves is right, our perfect requirements, a lot of those things are wrong. And it's a lot cheaper to figure them out before we wrote all the code, we integrated it all, we tested it all, we released it, and that's usually when we find out if we're wrong, if we ever did it, right? Too many things. Yeah, so we've got all these challenges, and one of them is this problem, and I call it drowning in a sea of opportunity. Most companies, this is their number one problem when we go into their organization, is everything's high priority, everything's urgent, it all has to get done. The VP of Sales has already promised it. Right? We just need you to do it. It's like shoving more paper in the printer. Is it going to come out faster on the other side? No, but that's sales. Like, just put more paper in there. It will come out faster. Go faster. No, it's just going to jam it all up. Our goal is not 100% utilization. But that's what managers think. Like, you got to get your hands on your keyboard. What's 100% utilization of 183 going to be at 5 o'clock today? A parking lot. Is anything moving? No, but it's 100% utilized. I got all my resources 100% utilized. They're running around crazy. They're not focused, but they're busy. We have this saying, watch the baton, not the runner. The runners are the people doing the work. The baton is the work. And in most of our organizations, what's happening is a baton, a new idea comes in, and what happens is it sits in a queue until it gets high enough priority, and then an analyst picks it up. Product owner, whoever, does some definition, then it sits in a queue, and then a developer picks it up. And then it sits in a queue, and then QA picks it up sometime later. And in a wonderful world, then it would go sit in a queue and it would get deployed. But there's a reason why QA exists, right? We used to have a quality coach. She worked with me at a prior company. We were at Baby A's over here at happy hour one time, and she said, I want to make a toast. And the developers were all sitting there, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Tina. She says, I want to thank you guys because I have a job because you suck. Okay, so it gets to QA, and the reality is it's going to go back to dev, right? Because they don't write perfect code. And we shouldn't necessarily say write perfect code. They might go so slow, right? So there's a balance there. They shouldn't write crappy code and it loops here. Right? But if we would focus on the baton, not the runner, not making sure everybody's just moving fast, how long does it take for the baton to get through? And in most of your organizations, there's batons all over the floor, sitting on the ground. And very few of them are in anybody's hand in getting to the finish line. So look at the baton, not the runner. So when we look at juggling lots of things at one time, say we had 9 projects, 9 developers, it would be more efficient for us to assign one project to each person. Right? Say these were about a month long, and I got my 9 developers right here, and I come to you about 2 weeks in and say, hey, what percentage complete are y'all? What do you think you're going to tell me? Right? We're 2 weeks into our 1 month. Mark's like, I haven't even started. I got 2 more weeks. Maybe they would say, oh yeah, I must be halfway through. I'm 50% complete. Now what happens if something changes? Some new requirement comes up. Something that would be third on this list. What are our options? What can we do?
Throw work away.
What's that?
Throw work away.
Throw work away. So we would probably say, hey, Mark, you've got the 9th priority, because these are actually in priority order. So you got the 9th one. I need you to jump onto this new item. And you know what? I actually need Rudy here also, because you got the 8th one. I need you both to go jump on that one. But remember where you are, because in 2 weeks I'll need you to come back to it. Right? Just comment it out. All that code that you wrote. Yeah, just remember. Actually, better yet, put a feature toggle on it. That'll be awesome. Right? So that's not that great of an option. What else could we do? Ignore it? Say no. Right? Hey, business, we're locked up for 2 more weeks or 2 years. Right? We don't have enough resources. So we'll just have to say no. We'll get to it. And that's not a great answer for the business, right? That kind of sucks. Like, we would like to solve this for the business. Or we could just, go with our office space example and say, hey, I need you guys to work on Saturday and maybe Sunday too, right? And so these aren't good options. So when we work on a bunch of things at once, it seems to be more efficient, but we're not getting outcomes delivered. We're not getting things done. We don't have a good measure of progress. But if we would swarm and we would focus on one thing at a time, then when I come to this team and say, hey, what percentage complete are you? If we focus, then they would say, I finished 4 items and we're about done with the 5th. Now we probably couldn't put 9 people on, we might be able to on a 1-month deal. Maybe we have to work on 2 things. But this is one of those new skills that Agile teams have to figure out, is how to break work down. Not only how to break stories down, but how to break tasks down. How to share work. If I just say, I work on blue stuff, Mark works on red stuff, and so I got a 2-week blue task to do, Mark doesn't know how to help me. But if I break the blue task down into, I have database work, I have unit testing, I got a development, I got these things, I got UX to design, Mark may say, you know what, I know how to do database stuff. I can help you, I think, with the database stuff. And once we break work down, and it forces the developers to think things through. That's what we're doing in sprint planning. But we're also would be breaking work down like this as a product owner in stories, into small things that meet and vest. We talk about with stories, independent, valuable, testable chunks of work. That's what enables us to get to the potentially shippable product increment at the end of the sprint. So, what number are we on? 5? Looks like 2 back here. Right? So number 5, we're not getting things done. This is the Scrum butt part of Scrum. Yeah, we do Scrum, but we carry over stuff every sprint, right? Because it doesn't fit in 2 weeks. We gotta figure out how to break work down. We're not getting to done. We're not getting to potentially shippable work. So if I would take a waterfall project and I have this, say, 5-month project, we're gonna do requirements design, 2 months of dev, a month of testing. And you guys are all project managers. You're responsible. Project managers, pretty much all they do is red, yellow, green status, right? Yeah. All right, so.
Just red and green.
All right, they do other things. Okay. All right, so red, yellow, green. That's all you guys are responsible for. Okay. So say we were going along. We finished the requirements in the first 4 weeks. We get it all reviewed, signed off. We get all the changes integrated. What color are we? We finished out in the first 4 weeks. It's a 5-month project. We green, yellow, red. Green, right? We finished it on time. All right, we get the design done on time. We get it reviewed. We get it all validated, signed off. What color are we? Green, and we're 40% complete, right? And then we do the development. Developers write all the code. They check it all in. It builds. It's integrated. They finish that all on time by the end of month 4. Wait, what color are we? Green. Now, what are we a week or 2 into testing? What color? Red. Like a deep, good wine. Red, right? But at this point, weren't we 80% done? Were we? What were we 80% done with? The time, or schedule, right? What was that, Ian? Yeah.
The requirements at the beginning.
The requirements at the beginning. We think, right? We're at least done with our schedule and probably our budget at this point. Okay, but now all of a sudden we've gone red. What are our options? How do we salvage this project so that we show the executive team we're red? They're like, oh my gracious! You were doing such a good job as a project manager managing this green for 80% of the time, and all of a sudden it went to red. What happened? It's all of a sudden red. What are we going to do? So they say, all right, I want you to put together a list of all the options we should consider on how to salvage this project, good or bad. Put them on the list. What would we put on this list? How can we salvage this project?
Push the date.
Push the date. So time is always an option. Politically, maybe not always a good option, but it's an option, right? What else?
Cut features.
Cut features. So let's think about that. So design, requirements, and development are all a sunk cost at this point. So cutting features, we can't go back and do less development. So what it looks like is kind of like that scenario over here where I said, hey, that feature you guys have been working on for the last month, can you just go comment it all out? Right, because it's not going to make the release. Or what it looks like is we say, you know what, our release criteria at the beginning of the project was we're going to fix all SAV 1 and SAV 2 defects. And then all of a sudden we get into it, we say, all right, just fix the really bad SAV 1s. We'll do a quick patch right afterwards. Right? Which now we're sacrificing quality and time. Or cut features could look like, yeah, let's just not test that part of the system. I don't think anybody uses it. You know, I think it's pretty stable. Right? So these aren't good options. I mean, we put testing up here, but maybe that's just testing within our team. I didn't put up here like user acceptance testing, or some of you call production. You know, so here we are, we're finding things out too late. The reality is, what we have is, if we think about an iceberg, the water line's here. That's our risk iceberg. And all we can see is the tip, and we're just able to mitigate very few of the risks are emerging until all of a sudden we hit testing and we see, holy crap, there's all these issues underneath here. Right? That's the first time we're revealing the quality of our product. And there's usually things that are wrong, right? There's a reason why QA has a job. And so at that point, it's too late for us to address many of those issues. So in Agile and Scrum, we're saying we want to work in sprints. We want to get to done. And there's this joke about being done. Are you done? Are you done? Right? Did you meet the definition of done? Is it potentially shippable? Is it of quality that it could ship? And so what we mean by that is we want to work in slivers of functionality. That doesn't mean that we have to release every 2 weeks. Because I've had people like, yeah, we can't do Agile because we can't release every 2 weeks. We're not saying that. We're saying it's of quality that it could ship. So if you were building something like an Amazon site, and in a sprint, all you could get done was the shopping cart functionality, but you couldn't do credit card processing yet. You couldn't take their money. Is it potentially shippable? What if I said that we tested, we could add products of all our different types, and we tested it, we fixed any bugs. We could remove items, we tested all that. We could add or change quantities, and all of that works. Is it potentially shippable? Is it of quality that it could ship? It's of quality that it should. Is it valuable enough to ship yet? No, those are two different things. We're not talking about its value. It could be. The product owner could decide, you know what? We need to get this out there and see if anybody adds items to the cart. We're going to do a big launch. You know, come add items to your cart. In 2 weeks, you'll be able to buy it. Maybe that makes sense. I think it's called Kickstarter, right? Like, I can buy stuff, but I don't actually get anything shipped to me. Right? So sometimes there is a business reason to ship, but what we're mainly doing is saying we want to work where we're able to validate progress. Working software is our primary measure of progress, not I finished a requirements document, we're 20% done. We're saying we finished stuff. So if we had 10 features to get done over these 4 sprints, and after sprint 2, we had 4 of 10 features done, we're 40% complete and we meet it. Now would you say we're green, yellow, or red? We're 40% done and we're halfway through. We're yellow. Like we get early warning indicators now. And so we're yellow because we're able to assess the risk every 2 weeks. We're assessing the risk, and this is a wise, he wouldn't say he was wise. I was wondering if he's here. A wise director of QA once told me, you know, this is the first QA guy, leader that I worked with that didn't always just say no when you ask the question, can we release? Like, that's usually was QA's job, just to be the blocker, say no, it's not, the product's not ready. And it was never ready. But he said, you know what? We can release anytime you want. So, are you QA? Like, we can release anytime you want. My job is to assess the risk of releasing right now. And that's what we're able to do, is every 2 weeks, assess the risk and address the risks, mitigate the risks by fixing the bugs that we find every 2 weeks, so that we're potentially shippable. And this is the Rosetta Stone of Agile. If you can get things that are small and potentially shippable every 2 weeks, then it allows you to deviate on the orange line earlier. It allows you to assess the impact of change and have the agility to pivot as the requirements change in the business. But if you're working on big, long, 6-week things that are carrying over from sprint to sprint, you're not able to do that. So we've got to figure out how do we break work down, how do we work in a cross-functional way where development and QA are on the same team, getting things all the way to the finish line in the sprint, during the sprint. So let me walk you through a scenario. This was a real life case when I was kind of learning Agile, and I thought I had figured it out. Like, all right, we figured out Agile. We got these sprints, and we're gonna test inside these sprints, and we were doing story points, and so we had these 2-week sprints, and we planned 20 points in each of these sprints, and then we had a hardening sprint at the end. And so for those that don't know what points are, just think it's a relative measure. 20 points was twice as much work as 10 points. So we planned 20 points worth of work, so 80 points to get done in, 10 weeks. And our definition of done was that we were not only building it, but we were also testing it. And we had a good amount of automation, so we thought, all right, we're rocking and rolling this Agile thing. And we were fixing as many bugs that fit in our time box, but any other bugs, we just said, you know what, we got that hardening sprint. Let's just move those to the hardening sprint. We'll get them then. How long do you think that hardening sprint took? That hardening sprint ended up taking 8 weeks. So really what happened was we delivered 80 points in 16 weeks. But it looked like we were getting a lot done every 2 weeks. We were telling ourselves we were getting a lot done every 2 weeks. What we realized is that we needed to be more disciplined about our definition of done, and what we needed to do was go slow to go fast. And so what we ended up doing the next time was saying, now our definition includes fixing all of the bugs that we find that are high enough severity. I mean, sometimes there's like a set 5, something or other, like within that that require us to ship, that are required for us to release. And then what happened was we did 15 points every sprint. So in 10 weeks, we actually got 75 points done. That's almost double the work, right? In half the time. Interesting. Right, so here we are, and all we did was go slower. All we did was say, all right, but the developers are like, oh, we can do 20. No, you can't. You can get 20 coded, but you're not getting 20 done. Right, so what we're focused on is, what is the job of the developer? Is the job of the developer to write code? Or is the job of the developer to deliver value, to deliver outcomes? We need to get them involved in discovery. We need to get them involved in quality. We need to get them involved in getting things all the way to the finish line. It's not just about how many lines of code to write. That's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is we're releasing a bunch of bad software that is missing the mark. We need to be delivering software that's solving the problems, solving the needs of these customers. So here we have the saying of stop starting, start finishing. It's easy for us to start work, right? It's easy for the business to come up with new ideas. I just came up with a new idea for your business right now. It's easy for us to do that. And what we normally have done, if there's any managers in the room, what we typically do is say, all right, new idea. My job is to triage it. Who do I assign it to? All right, I'm going to assign it to you. All right, new thing came in. I'm going to assign it to you. Oh, it's off of my plate. Whew, I can go play golf. Right? But what we need to be doing is being a blocker of all those batons up front, because it's easier for us to manage the queue of work we haven't started than it is to manage all the work of all the stuff that's in all of these queues. And if we have a bunch of queues, then our cycle time becomes really long. So what we want to do is not start stuff until we finish stuff. Don't just shove more paper in the printer. Right? We want to wait till we get something done, then we can pull the next highest priority thing in. And prioritization becomes a lot easier, because now, if we finish 2 things every week, now we just have to go and say, what are the next 2 things? We don't need to prioritize 100 items. We just need to say, what are the next 2? Let's go work on those. Let's go get those done. So the last one is this problem. But everything's important. Everything's high priority. We got to get everything done. Well, they all may be important, but this is the number one thing when I'm presenting and talking and training an executive team, is you guys get to pay the big bucks. You can't just say everything is high priority, because here's what's going to happen. My 3 favorite prioritization techniques. We have a team, we have a set of people, and we have a new project. We say, oh, I got a project. Who needs to work on this? And I assign this out to Alex, James, Janet. All right, off my plate. It's all assigned out. We got another project. Need Alex, Carter, and Cameron. Third project. Need Alex, James, and Will. Anybody see a problem here? How do you think Alex is feeling right now? Pretty important, right? Alex is like, yeah, I'm a hero around here. Yeah, I get all the good stuff. Job security, right? So all of these are high priority. All of these are important. How does Alex decide what to work on next? See if you can identify my 3 favorite prioritization techniques. Shout them out. How does Alex decide what to work on next? Coolest. Who's screaming the loudest?
Yes.
Yeah, random. Yeah. Easiest. Those are my 3 favorite prioritization techniques, and you guys know them. Right? So here's what I say to executive team. Because you, who makes the big bucks, are not deciding what the priorities are for the business, the people furthest removed from understanding the business priorities are running your business based on coolest, easiest, and whoever's screaming the loudest. That's how our businesses are being run. Because we're overloading people, we're saying everything is high priority. You might be thinking to yourself, well, no, they work on what I want to do. You're screaming the loudest. Right? Yeah, but I take them to happy hour, give them tips, treats. Yeah, that's screaming too. Riding is screaming the loudest. Right? So what do we want to do? What do we do in Agile? How do we solve this in Agile? What we do is we form a team. We have a team of people. And we need to create a prioritized backlog. The product owner role could be redefined or renamed as the team backlog owner. Each team needs one product owner, one team backlog owner, one person that's deciding the priorities for this team. This team may be working on multiple projects. The product owner may have multiple stakeholders for each of those projects who think they're product owners. You know, I'm the product owner of this project. I own project 1. No, you're a key stakeholder because this team does more than just project 1. And the product owner is responsible for creating this funnel and creating focus and clarity of priorities for this team. And so that yellow item would be first, and the blue item, and the green item, and the yellow item, and the blue item, and we have this priority list. And then the team will figure out how to divide up the work. The team is self-organizing. And if people need to learn some of the skills that Alex has, or the knowledge areas that Alex has, then Alex will teach them. And the team will figure that out. The team will adjust. And so what we want to do is create focus, and that's what we're trying to do with the product owner, because everything can't be the highest priority. Or else either we're shoving paper in the printer and nothing's getting done, or we're working on the coolest, easiest, and whoever's screaming the loudest. So we've got these 6 things, and they all factor into this notion of the potentially shippable product increment. If we focus on this thing that we're trying to get done, if you're in Scrum, even if you're in Kanban, it's each item that you're trying to get something done before you get to the next item. Right? We're trying to get something incremental, potentially shippable. And if we do that, well, it requires us to focus and break work down. And what did I swarm? Yeah. That one looks really weird from the back. And to swarm, for us to get cross-functional. We talk about T-shaped people with a depth of skills, but a breadth of skills. Generalized specialists. People are like, oh, we can't do Agile, we don't have generalists. Everybody's got a specialty. But we've got to figure out how do we work together to get stuff done, as opposed to just working on the thing that we're comfortable in. And if we could do that, then we can get some really big benefits. And all of these tie into the outcome versus the output. We're not maximizing efficiency, utilization, and output. We're maximizing outcome and value and solving business problems. And so when your team gets hung up on, well, that wouldn't be the most efficient way to work, it might not be. You know, you take a bunch of introverts and you put them on a team, you say you got to work together, they're like, I don't really like people. I just want to go work in my office by myself. That would be more efficient. Yeah, it would for you, but that's not the most effective use of your time in order to get value delivered out the other side.